Haere mai, welcome to the Hawke's Bay Regional Council meeting for this month of September. To open, can I please hand the rākau over to Councillor Hokianga to open us with a mihi and acknowledgement and karakia. Kia ora.
Tuatahi ake, taki karakia i tātou, so we will lead with our karakia and then I will make some acknowledgements i roto i te reo Māori, some mihi, just to set the segue for our hui here today. Those that have the cards in front of us and our opening karakia is tūtawa mai runga. Kia kaha tātou, tūtawa mai runga,
Tūtawa mai raro, tūtawa mai roto, tūtawa mai waho. Kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora, ki te katoa, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e.
I roto i ngā mihi poroporo aki o te wā, tēnei au ka whakatau nei i a tātou, kia kotahi ai te whakaaro, kia mihi a te tini te mano. Te tūtūtanga o te koehu, ko rātau ngā mate o te rā, o te wiki, o te marama, o te tau, o ngā tau e toru kua hipa pā atu i a tātou i tēnei rā. Whakaaro nui ake ana kua tara a whare, te para i kawa kawa, te whare āriki o tā timu, te hiu hiu o tū wharetoa. Tēnei anō tātou e whakaaro nui ana ki te iwi i pikautia nei i tēnei wā pauri, no reira a tū wharetoa, tēnei anō mātau e whakaaro nui ana i tā kōtau matenga. No reira, e te pāpā, e tā tumu, nei rātou waka whakairo, kia rere ki tua, ki pai, oki oki tonu rā, oki oki tonu rā. Me ngā mate kei wainga nui a tātou, te kaunihera o te matau a Māui, tēnei anō te reo aumihi a kia kūtau i tēnei wā o tirā ki ngā whānau, e haria mai nei ngā whakaaro i ngā maumahara o rātou, wā ngaro ki te tirohanga kanohi. O reira, koutou ngā mate, oki tonu rā, tātou te kanohi ora, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora everybody, and it's just nice to acknowledge everybody and to settle everybody here this morning on behalf of Hawke's Bay Regional Council, given that it's the last full council meeting of this term, and we acknowledge loved ones that are no longer with us, that may have been a part of the journey of the last 3 years. So both those loved ones of staff, loved ones of governance, and more importantly, the loved ones of the communities that we serve. It's important for us to acknowledge that here today and welcome the memory of those as we embark on the final full council meeting of today. And I say these words, the name of unity and prosperity, and wish everyone well in their future endeavours. O ti mauri ma te tiheiwa mauri ora kia tātou. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora, Councillor Hokianga, tēnei te mihi kia koe mō ngā kupu aroha kia tātou katoa, te kaunihera nei me tā tātou hapori. It's very pertinent that we acknowledge our loved ones who have passed, those who have gone before us, those who have passed recently, and also remembering the devastation that many of our community have gone through since the cyclone. We acknowledge you all. Tēnā tātou. It is an auspicious occasion, our last council meeting, and we have a journey to go today, team. So let's head to our agenda. Can I please take any apologies for today's meeting?
Is Martin an apology?
Councillor Williams is an apology, thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Williams.
Tanya Hopmans is an apology. Councillor Hokianga needs to leave at 1 p.m.
And we'll be joining.
and will be joining online. Thank you, Councillor. That is all for today. I'm happy to move those. Can I have a seconder for those apologies? Thank you, Councillor Sears. All those who agree say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Conflict of interest declarations for any of the items today? None to declare. Thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council from 27th of August. Are there any corrections to be made to those minutes? If there are not, can I please have a mover and a seconder to approve those minutes? Councillor Van Beek and Councillor Rodley. All those who agree say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Thank you. Public forum, there are no speakers. 5, call for minor items not on the agenda. I'd like to propose that those who are intentionally leaving us for the term be given their 5 minutes of departing words. So we'll leave that for minor items. Kapai.
What about those unintentional?
We could be here all day. Moving into our decision items, so we have the Biosecurity Annual Report 24-25 and Operational Plan for 25-26. Now please invite Richard and the team up. Thank you very much. Just recalling councillors and members that this item was bumped from last council meeting. Mm-hmm. That was also full, so this is a presentation to look back and then operationally look forward. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you, Richard. Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou, katoa ko Richard Wakeland tōku ingoa. Thank you very much, Chair. And context for this morning is to present our role in the delivery of our legislative obligations, what we must do, what our drivers are, and what we actually have delivered, and some of the key challenges going forward. In doing that, it's my pleasure to introduce the team this morning. So we have Jolene Townsend, who is Manager of Catchment Operations. We have Mark Mitchell, who is our Principal Advisor, Biosecurity and Biodiversity. And we have our Catchment Management Lead for Biosecurity, Matt Short. And I'd like to invite the team to run through a short presentation to allow an opportunity for questions. Mm-hmm. Commend this report to you. Thank you.
So, thank you for having us. We'll start off with Regional Pest Management Plan. I guess what is it? It's our main statutory document implementing the Biosecurity Act for regional councils. It gives us our framework to manage and eradicate specified organisms, as well as our powers under the Act that we can use. It's a regional requirement to have regional leadership under the Biosecurity Act. The RPMP meets this requirement, and it's a statutory requirement for all councils to have an RPMP, and our one lasts for 20 years. So we've got 63 pests declared. They've got a wide variety of designations relating to their level of threat to specific values, biodiversity, economy, agriculture. So the plan's got a variety of pests in it, and they're all given a program that they fall under based on cost-benefit analysis, but also based on the diagram here of the invasion curve. So essentially what this diagram describes is that it's a lot easier and more cost-effective to spend money early than it is to spend money late when pests are well established here. So, in the early phase you have exclusion pests, which aren't here. Let's keep them out. We have eradication pests, which exist here in low numbers. So we're trying to remove all individuals. We have progressive containment pests, which we're trying to limit them to a given area, keep them from spreading, and sustained control, where a pest is sort of needed to be kept at a maximum acceptable level. And also we have site-led pests, which aren't on this diagram, but they are pests that we manage based on ecological values alone. So a little bit of what we delivered here, just over 2,500 pest plant visits. This could include surveillance, machine washdown inspections, plant identification, biocontrol releases, auditing, and of course, actual control efforts. Now, most of these happen between October and March, which is really busy for us. So to increase the total by 27% is worth noting given that our FTE hasn't changed. We monitored about 27% of the possum control area program footprint, and the target residual trap catch rate for that program sits at 4%. So if we averaged out all of the places that were monitored, it came in at 1.3, which is well below 4, so a good result. But we did still have 52 properties fail monitoring. We have worked with all of these properties to remedy their possum issues. So for rooks, over the last 20 odd years.
1.3%, does that mean if there's 100 traps, 1.3% of them had a catch?
Essentially. Yep, so for rooks, over the last 20 years or so, we've had a significant reduction in the number of nests recorded. We have had a little bit of a wobble over the last 2 or 3 years when numbers started to rise once again. Last financial year, we treated more active nests than the previous one, but with less rookeries found. So yeah, rise in active nests combined with a reduction in active rookeries. Regardless of all that, we surveyed every single place where a rook has ever nested in the region last year, as we have done for the last couple. And we liaise with all the other councils that have rooks in their region, and we're working nationally towards eradication on that one. So we've found and treated 2 marine pest incursions as well. So harking back to that last slide where I was talking about the designations of specific pests, an incursion is where something that does not exist here makes its first appearance and you respond to that. So for these 2 that were treated, it was Mediterranean fanworm, a pest that's gazetted as an exclusion pest under the plan, and yeah, they were both found early in the bud and treated, as well as completing a full survey of the inner harbour. We used contract divers for that, and they surveyed every vessel that was in the harbour at the time, as well as every structure, every pile, every wharf, everything, checking for marine pests. A little bit more of what we delivered. Californian green thistle beetle. So this is a biocontrol agent that was released about 10 years ago to combat Californian thistle across the region. This is our 2nd year of a monitoring program that we're part of with Landcare Research. And with the results of these years, it's pretty safe to say this beetle is well established in the region. And in fact, we're seeing it in a lot of places where that are nowhere near the original release sites. So it's a good thing because we can apply a bit more of a focus to our other agents. And yeah, we also contribute to the National Biocontrol Collective, which is a sector group of regional councils and unitary councils. And we all pool our resource to set priorities for researching further agents that we might be putting out into the landscape. The Ag Research Weed Seeds and River Gravel project. So over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been working on getting funding for a trial in this space. Ag Research formulated a study which sought to identify if certain crushing and screening processes of river gravel can reduce or eliminate weed seed loads in the finished aggregate product. We led the charge as far as securing funding, but it was all done in a multi-council effort, as this problem is not necessarily unique to Hawke's Bay, it's a national problem. The field component of the study was completed in April. It was done down in Waipawa, and it was done with the help of Tikakino contractors and a company called Mobile Screening and Crushing New Zealand, a company that hold a lot of expertise in commercial quarrying. So that was our half of the field component, and the other half was done in Canterbury. 728 goats removed from our coordinated management areas in Mahia and up on top of the Maunga Haradu range. All of this work is co-funded and collaborative. DOC and local forest companies contribute to this work. Alligator weed at Lake Whatumā. We did manage to get 2 aerial operations done this year, rather than the one of the previous year. They happened in October and March. After our post-operational monitoring, we estimate about 70% reduction in biomass from when we discovered it 2 years ago, which is a good result for 2 years' work. This couldn't have happened without the support of the Whātua Management Group, as well as the local game bird hunters on the lake. We also did a lot of surveillance, aerial surveillance, using an indicator dog that can sniff out alligator weed, and a lot of ground control work as well. So for Old Man's Beard, the slide denotes the Wairua area, but we actually control it north of State Highway 5 wherever it occurs. That's just, Wairua area is just where the bulk of the work happens, and it's mostly concentrated around Tuai and Willow Flat. This work again is highly collaborative. Wairua District Council, DOC, local forest companies, local landowners all contribute to this work, whether it's in terms of time, funding, or just expertise.
Just a question. Are there properties where you can't actually treat it because the landowner doesn't allow you to, or have we got by statute the right to eradicate it?
Yeah, we do have the ability to go in and deal with it, or make sure that a landowner does. But for this one, yeah, we have a lot of that service ourselves. We find for this particular work that it's easier to work collaboratively, as not everybody wants Old Man's Beard on their land. It's easier to go through negotiations on how it can all work, because you're trying to secure an outcome for many years down the track, not just the year that you're doing that work. We're trying to make sure that we can progress through the program and move the Old Man's Beard wherever it is in that area. Wilding conifers. So yeah, for wilding conifers, all of our work is part of the MPI National Wilding Conifer Control Program. It covers quite a large area. Our area goes from north of State Highway 5 on the edge of the Rangataiki River, and it goes all the way down through the Central Plateau on the far side of the Kawikas, right down through Ngāmatea, Timahanga stations, and ends up just on the edge of the Ruahine Forest Park boundary. All of our work happens on private land. Most of it's multiple ownership land. We collaborate with DOC and all our regional neighbours to try and treat wilding pines as a central North Island problem rather than just a Hawke's Bay problem. And we have experienced a little bit of reduction in MPI funding, so we chopped and changed our areas to complement each other and according to everybody's needs.
Excuse me, Matt, can you just physically describe, how you treat a wilding pine?
Well, aerially, it depends on the situation. It depends on how well infested a place is. Some places warrant boom spraying, not that we do any of that, because our numbers are at a low enough level that it's very much search and destroy work. So the helicopter will fly off. There'll be a pod under the helicopter, and all the workers basically spot spraying using a carbon fibre wand out of that chopper. So you're very much at I wouldn't say low incidence, but low to medium incidence work. You're looking for very isolated trees or very isolated patches of trees over pretty vast areas. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to visualise that wand, whether you helicopter pilot with a joystick in one hand and hand out the window.
There's a second guy.
There's another guy on the
multitask.
opposite seat, and essentially he's doing the spraying.
Right.
Chopper's just holding the steering.
So they don't have to land on the ground. Right. Thank you. That helps.
Large drones haven't been looked at?
They have been, but for the area that we're controlling, even just taxi time alone from some places takes a long time. A pilot might be flying for 30 minutes before they can even start work. To fly a drone that far, probably not cost efficient or feasible.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, bit of a list of just who we work with. It's not exhaustive, but it does provide an idea. Our work is a national focus. The threats might be regional, but the work underpins a lot of other work. Biodiversity, land management, erosion control. You've got to be linked up. Knowledge is no good if it's not shared.
Just a question, please. Have you been so overrun you've had to get the EPA in? You've worked with them as well?
Sure have. You basically can't do any aerial spraying without going through the EPA.
Chair, sorry, do you have a feel as to, of all those partners you've got, for every dollar we spend, how many additional dollars come into the mix?
Good question.
Good question.
We can get that question from, we can get that for you.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know that, yeah.
And that number should go up, Jock?
Always.
Always.
So we've kind of gone through what we delivered. And now we're just moving into our key challenges that we're going to face in future. So alligator weed and Senegal tea in our current plan are exclusion pests. So they weren't here until we discovered them here. Now we've got to change our mindset to eradication. And for alligator weed, we've had a good couple of years. We've knocked the infestation back by 70% compared to what it was 2 years ago, which is good for 2 years' work. But it's such a hardy species that we can't afford to ease off or pull pin. And for Senegal tea, we discovered this, 12, 13 months ago. And for this one, we actually didn't make a start on a proper control program in the last financial year. Reason being, we deemed it prudent to talk to all local stakeholders first before starting straight off into control. In the meantime, though, we did do a lot of surveillance to see if that year off control had made a measurable difference in the increase of Senegal tea, and it basically hadn't. There was no meaningful change at all in all the places we surveyed. Yeah. Chilean needlegrass, our number of infested properties continues to increase. Resourcing and compliance continue to pose challenges for us. CNG is a sustained control plant, so if I'm talking about where it is on the invasion curve, it's at the big end. And we probably use about a quarter of all of our pest plant budget on Chilean needlegrass. So that's going to continue to be a challenge for us. As far as the possum control area program goes, it's meeting its targets, but certainly not a perfect program. We still had 52 properties fail, which is 10% of all the monitored properties. So as it stands, it's hitting its targets, but it's not perfect. There was that partial plan review done. Was it just Port Gabriel? Yeah. Partial plan review done just before the cyclone, which we thought to bring that from a landowner responsibility to in-house work. That could still be done in the long future, So at the moment, we still got a low average RTC across the landscape, but it could be a little bit better.
Councillor Sears.
Thank you, through you, Chair. We reduced the area that we were monitoring, and cuts from last year. We reduced the area. We're still doing the monitoring, but within the area. So I suppose the interesting question would be to understand, are we seeing how the effect of the smaller area is playing out in terms of the numbers? Because it may be that the decision we made to do that is impacting. I know a lot of landowners rely on the monitoring to check. They keep doing their program, but they're relying on the monitoring. So has that had bigger consequences than we anticipated? Probably is what would be good to unpack in that. Not now necessarily.
Are there any initial thoughts, or would you like to provide?
That is definitely a factor. We know it drives the community to do their possum control when they receive a letter that we're going to be coming to monitor them. However, just through the challenges that we had, it was one of the things we had to just unfortunately accept. So it's something that might show up in the next 2 or 3 years. But overall, we are only monitoring a percentage of the PCA program. So that is a challenge we face longer term,
Thank you.
Just following up from Councillor Sears, there's a graph on page 18 of the report which shows a very substantial increase in the area monitored in the 23-24 year, and then a drop to in the current, in 24-25, but that level is still much higher than the average monitoring rate. Can you help me understand the RPC drop that's occurring? Is that an average, the red line in that table? Is that red line your average RPC? RTC, sorry.
Yeah, so the PCA program, a 5% RTC was required. That was then reduced in the last Regional Pest Management Plan review to 4%, so tightening up on the requirement.
So interpreting that graph, do I look at the blue line?
Yes, correct. The blue line is the monitoring results across the PCA program.
And the red line is sort of the benchmark?
That's the requirement that they have to hit. So the red line is what they have to hit, and the blue line is where it's tracking across the program. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Foley.
Thank you. Thanks, team. Really important work. That graph actually is quite a good news story, isn't it? When you look at it, we've lowered the target. The actual monitoring has stayed quite low, and the hectares monitored has increased. So all of those are kind of moved in the right direction so far. Yeah, everyone's got a story about what they see out there, though. It's all as if it's more. So the 1.3 is a good number. There's no trend line of the 52 properties that have failed. Is that a negative trend compared to historically? And is it like, if you put them on a map, is it any one particular areas or?
So the overall RTC being 1.3% includes those properties that have failed. So that shows you where we're trending, which is still good. We have had an increase in the number of properties failing, but that is also due to the number of the area that we're monitoring. So the more area we monitor, the more likely we'll hit that. We haven't actually worked it out as a percentage, so that'd be really interesting to go back and look at what area did we monitor, how many properties failed, what is that percentage, and just see how that's tracking. So I couldn't answer that right now. That's something we could look at.
Just out of interest of time, this is really important mahi to cover, but how many more slides do we have? 2 more, fantastic, and then we'll get into questions.
Okay.
This will be
Fantastic,
quick.
thank you.
Yeah, rooks. We need to carry on applying pressure to the rook population as well. You know, we did discover some new rookeries and increased number of total nests, and that is a bit disappointing, but broadly you can chalk it up to other rookeries going quiet, deactivating, and birds dispersing from the past rounds of control. That in itself is a challenge, finding the new places where they've moved on to. And I'll just hand this last one over to Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So just really quickly, 3 final points. The first one being the Regional Pest Management Plan is due for review by 2028. So although it's a 20-year plan, we have to review it every 10 years. And we'll be following a formal process under the Biosecurity Act, which includes the release of a proposal, a public consultation, submissions, hearings. That will take a couple of years to work through. So I'll come back to the new council and show you our planned approach and timelines for that. The second one is just to make sure you're aware that the current government has disestablished Predator Free 2050 Limited, and they were the company that helped co-fund Whakatipu Mahia. So those projects have been moved to the Department of Conservation, and our team is currently engaging with DOC around next steps. And the team have also put out 2 external applications seeking funding to try and complete the possum eradication on Whakatipu Mahia, the part of that project. And finally, just I'm not sure if you've heard about avian influenza, but there's a strain called H5N1. It's highly contagious and it's spreading around the globe. So our team here is just in the early stages of preparing for this, and I'll come back to the new council and give you a formal briefing on our preparedness for that.
Okay, thank you, team. Thanks, Matt and Mark. First question up is, when we do the 10-year review, is that the stage that we can include pests that currently aren't included i.e. tube worm in the Ahuriri estuary.
So the plan is fully opened up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic. Any other questions for the team? Councillor Foley.
Forestry, quite significant land use change going on in CHB at the moment, and talk about obviously the threat of what that poses in the future, but existing plantation forests now and the possums, the deer, pigs, and so on. Do we know what the actual data is? Are they kind of harbouring and breeding up coming out of forestry, or?
We wouldn't have any hard evidence on monitoring or figures. We do monitor possums in the forestry areas, and if they don't meet the requirements, they too have to undertake control. Feral pigs and deer. Currently, we don't really have any efficient monitoring tools for them, and what we're getting is a lot of anecdotal evidence that they are quite a nuisance. It is a very tricky space to be operating in because they do currently sit under the Wild Animal Control Act, and there is conflicting legislation between the Wild Animal Control Act and the Biosecurity Act. So currently they actually are Department of Conservation's responsibility. However, I think we need to keep pushing forward to how we resolve this because status quo is not acceptable. So the Regional Pest Management Plan review process, that's the perfect time to start exploring these issues and looking at opportunities for remedying some of that. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Curtin.
Just following on from that line of questioning, I'm wanting to go to page 20, site 3.4, site-led pest animals. You've got a whole range of different specific sites there. Have you got a sense of the incidence of those particular pests scheduled there? I mean, can that be used as a default for general presence of those pests? What do you do data-wise in the site-led those sites?
Yep. So that program mainly revolves around our priority ecosystem program, where we're working with landowners to deer fence and protect high biodiversity value areas where we are removing ungulates from those areas. And ungulates are across our landscape. There's virtually nowhere left in Hawke's Bay where you don't have feral deer or pigs or goats. And the impact is significant. And that is why we have the Priority Ecosystem Program. Our current tool for managing their impact is deer fencing high-value sites and then excluding them, removing them from within that area and excluding them from getting back in.
So really my question is, how many are you excluding? Do you know, are you going in and shooting or whatever?
Yeah, so we can easily provide data on how many deer we've removed from within those remnants.
I wonder if future reports we could gain a sense of that, another column there to say we've removed X number of those pests and whether we can extrapolate that data to generic.
Yeah, we can include that on our next operation.
Success rates.
Yeah.
Very good. Councillor McIntosh.
Look, sorry if I've missed something in the report, but can you tell me a bit about cats? As in, you get the impression that they're a rapidly increasing problem in parts of the country. I'm interested to know if that's true here or not.
So, no, I wouldn't say they're rapidly increasing. I'd say people are becoming more aware of their presence and their impact. So feral cats have been established in most of the rural landscape for some time, and their impacts in regards to predators, yes, they are similar to a ferret or a stoat or whatnot. In regards to where they sit on that invasion curve, they're at the big fat end. So for us to physically do something, we'd have to talk serious resource to put towards to try and manage feral cats. So our approach at this point is supporting community groups and landowners in undertaking trapping programs and providing, whether it be some traps or technical assistance in that space to try and manage those, mainly around sites of high biodiversity value.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Sears.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Thanks, it's a great report. I suppose at a bigger picture, what the community's looking for is understanding what our regional pest management program is, if it's achieving its aim, how they have input into it to exactly pick up things like cats or deers or whatever that is. And as an example, last year we reduced our possum monitoring area and we used budget from that towards the eradication proposal for alligator weed. So I suppose having that kind of direct feedback of we started this program, it was this many years proposed. I can see what you've reported on here, and it sounds like it's gone really well. But to be able to see that in a timeline, and then we've got to balance that across, have we, because we're seeing an increase in number of people failing possums, that balance all the time between where we're putting our resources. So that's that kind of bigger picture of how we received the report, but then specifically the alligator weed program, because that was quite a big investment from us, sounds like it's gone really well, but directly for the next 2 years, what would you expect? And are we online for eradication? And again, what would be the process to move where we realise eradication may not be possible, and how does that process take place?
I guess to answer the back part of your question, I guess to change the designation of alligator weed in the RPMP, that's up for the next RPMP review, the one that's happening shortly. So yeah, I would say that any guess that I could make as far as a timeline for when there's going to be zero would be pretty difficult. There's the plan is so hardy that it can take a long time. We are lucky enough that while they're at the one site we do have it, there is it's really just about keeping that pressure on. But I couldn't make anything that I said would be a guess as far as an exact date. There's going to be no more alligator weed here on this day.
I guess another key point to make though is the work the team's done is really preventing its spread, and that's our key focus right now. So it might take a decade or longer to eradicate it, say. However, the likelihood of it spreading right now is very, very low because as soon as it pops up, the team are hammering it.
Yeah. Well done. Very good. Councillor Harding.
Kia ora, Chair. Looking through you, just a huge thanks to the team, both for this report, but more for the work that this reflects that goes on behind it. It's easy sometimes to overlook or forget that, in the context of all the work that we do at a catchment scale focused around keeping soil in place, that there's a whole other job around biosecurity. And the range and the extent of the things that we have to manage in a region is quite confronting. That said, the trends are largely good, and overall the tone of the report is that things are under control and possibly slightly improving. We always find, EDNA has presented us the opportunity for new challenges, but that in itself is progress. Look, in the page 9 of the operational report says, the operations plan says that a full cost recovery service is available for pest control. So, two questions: is that a popular service, and is the pricing around full cost recovery the right way to do it? And just bearing in mind that full cost recovery to me means a full share of the corporate overheads, which can be quite scary. And so, there is a way of the world of looking at it as an incremental service. So if this is popular and incremental, then there might be an opportunity to marginally cost it rather than fully costing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any response?
Wow, yeah, I mean, this mainly refers, to be honest, most of our programs are for primary production they are actually, they're all 100% targeted rate. And then within that, most landowners are contributing at least 50% towards that management as well. So it's really a balancing act. So for the eradication pest plants, given we have such low numbers, we want to manage that as staff because it's critical we get it right, that they don't seed, because just a few plants seeding can set us back years because of the longevity of the seed. But then when you move to the other end of the spectrum, like chili and nettlegrass, well, the landowners are bearing the brunt of most of that cost. Even though there is a greater good for most landowners, they are covering a significant portion of those costs. So with the targeted rate, that's around acknowledging that what they are doing on their property is actually benefiting many, say in the primary production area, but again, they are covering most of that cost. When it comes to a space where we might look at cost recovery for the whole program, that is when a landowner is not complying and they're being difficult about it. So we would serve a notice of direction. We would then go in and undertake formal monitoring, and if it was still not meeting our regional pest management plan, we would then engage a contractor to go in under the Biosecurity Act and manage that pest, and we would be recovering full costs, including administrative costs as well. So that would be when that would most likely get used.
Okay, so it reads slightly differently. So it reads as an offer of service as opposed to a compliance issue, essentially. Thank you.
Fantastic. If there are no further questions, could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the annual report and also agree to adopt the operational plan going forward? So Councillor Curtin, he was the mover, and Councillor Van Beek would like to second. Would you like to speak?
Well, just very briefly, thanks for the report. I sense that our whole pest management approach is somewhat undervalued and unseen, and yet it contributes very significantly to overall, our strategies. And that's why I sort of make the mention around understanding much more closely particularly those animal pests that are destroying our understory of. So to me, I'd like to see the next round some analysis of what is the burden of those pests and what is their impact. For example, what consequences are there for sedimentation as a result of having that pest unmanaged? So to me, I think we need to step up the game in terms of location and position of biosecurity in our thinking. So less siloed, more integrated across all of activities. So look, we look forward to your next report that says this is really important, and perhaps we can take a step forward in terms of targeted rate, etc., that we all share some of that cost, that we step that up. I noted the increase in monitoring across the board there, and then we sort of trimmed the budget somewhat. Maybe we got things wrong there, and we need to know that if that's the case. But well done. Let's use this as the basis for a significant discussion next time around.
Councillor Van Beek.
Yeah. I really echo the last two speakers on this, and congratulate you guys on the amazing work you've done, even mentioning that you've actually achieved more with the same amount of input, so that is really good. Biosecurity, from my point of view, is one area we should not actually skimp and save. We really should support you as a team and work very closely together with all those entities that you mentioned there, because at arm's length, and if we support them, they'll actually be very willing to team up with us, because it's benefit to them as well. And definitely I agree with Councillor Curtin regarding two-hooved animals that are browsing. By the way, they're actually also related to the dolphin by some reason, but anyway, I won't go there. Because a lot of the sedimentation we saw during that very rainy day, we believe it was actually caused in the catchment where a lot of this browsing happened. Not saying that I would focus on that those particular pests, but there is actually an area that we really need to focus on. So as a council, you definitely have my support going forward to maybe even see if we can actually do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done from us all. So I'll just have one more speaker, because I think we're all saying the same things. But yeah, Councillor McIntosh.
Really briefly, I just wanted to commend the extent of partnerships that you've developed and note the importance of that, not only to what you're doing, but other parts of the business too.
Perfect. Thank you. So all those who agree with recommendation 1, 2 and 3, say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. Thank you, team. Well done.
Yeah.
We now move on to item 7, procurement policy and strategy. So if I can please invite up, I'll just get to the item. Graham and Pip. Come Come on up.
Through you, Chair, just to introduce you to Graham Pomeroy, who is our procurement manager and guru and expert. So
Welcome, Graham.
That team, and has come to us from central government in recent times. And I think elected members, you've had this on your radar as bringing the strategy back to council.
So no pressure with that intro, thank you.
Just before you get started, Graham, we do have some pieces of feedback and we'll also have questions. So hopefully this is an opportunity to make some of those changes.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So,
hand it over to you.
Conscious of time, so what I'll do is only a few slides, so I'll go through those quickly so you've got more time to have the discussion rather than go through slides.
Perfect.
So you'll have seen in the pack the procurement strategy. Basically, the strategy is an overarching direction for efficiency, transparency and accountability. So it's a nice document, it's one page, but effectively what we're trying to drive is that efficiency within the council, and at the same time being transparent about how we're actually spending council money. We are required to do this as a council, so section 14 of the Local Government Act actually has a number of requirements for us to comply with. I've listed some of them there, so I won't read them out to you. But it's also important for our suppliers to actually understand what it is that we do, how we do it, and why we do it. And henceforth, the policy is as much for suppliers as it is for council. The policy itself is basically just a set of principles and a set of guidance for staff particularly. It also does apply to councillors, and you'll see that in the policy, if you've had time to read through it, that is a reference in there about governance and about how we actually manage that. The way that we run procurement in HPRC is we have what's called a hybrid model. So I look after the procurement function. That procurement function is a function that does the policy, does the governance, does the probity, does this, helps with some of the bigger contracts. So if you think, for example, like the bus contract, which is a major contract, we will assist with that. And on the other side, the businesses deal with a lot of the, I suppose, day-to-day and smaller type procurement with our assistance. There are 29 policy elements. I tried to get it less. I genuinely did. But those policies are broken down. Within those policies, there are 3 thresholds: under $10,000, $10,000 to $100,000, and $100,000 plus. It needs to be fit for purpose, and this document is designed to try and make the procurement activity fit for purpose. The one size doesn't fit all when you're talking about procurement, but what we've done is made it really clear that whatever the decision, as long as it's documented and we understand why that decision was made, then we're in a far better place than if we just start making financial decisions without actually understanding why we've made those. The next 4 slides I'm going to just quickly glance over. So in the pack that you were sent out, you were given the Supply Guide to Progressive Procurement, which was a 5-council guide which was issued in 2021. What I've done is I've taken the Progressive Procurement Supply Guide, the 4 key focus areas, and mapped them across to this new proposed procurement policy. So these slides just show how, on the right-hand side, I've taken the procurement policy and aligned it to the procurement supply guide on the left-hand side. So those 4 slides all do exactly the same thing, but just for the 4 different areas. So with that said, as I said, it was a fairly short presentation, so there's time for the
Thank you, Graham.
discussion.
Appreciate that succinctness. Just to start with, it might be worthwhile to let us know about your experience to see if the appropriate questions can be asked. So have you worked on these procurement policies with other councils before?
Not other councils. I was the Director of Commercial Operations for MB Procurement, so the all of government procurement. So I've worked in all of government procurement. I was procurement director at Inland Revenue. I've done a lot of consultancy around this area. So I'm comfortable that the document I've created is A, best practice, B, is fit for purpose for a council environment, and C, meets the requirements of both the current government direction, but also takes into account that the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, as are all councils, are not obliged to go with the government procurement rules. And there's a new version of that. They're on 4 at the moment. Version 5 is just about to be released. And this document reflects some of the key changes in version 5. So, for example, they're going away from more the sustainable towards the economic. And so I've reflected that in the document, but also taking into account that the regional council is slightly different to a government agency, for example.
A question for me to start is your view on Governor's input into the strategy and the building of the procurement policy.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
So I think that the policy particularly, the strategy, absolutely happy to take feedback as well. I think the policy should be a policy that is owned by the councillors, because ultimately it's about how council spends money and how council engages with the market. And so my belief is that if you took a standard business, it would be the executive leadership team that would actually own it. So I think in the case of the council, I think it should be that the council owns this policy. It's not my policy.
Thank you. Open up for questions. Councillor Van Dyke.
Yeah, I've got several, but I'll go with one first. Have you got a breakdown of the size of businesses that we deal with as a council, like a single operator down up to, you know, like maybe, I won't use name, but these very large contractors that are in our A group who have, you know, almost 1,000 staff?
Short answer, no. But you are correct, we do have single operators through from, for example, guys who go up into the hills and shoot goats, right through to the IPMO type contractors where you've got multiple contractors. But we're currently in the process of putting in a new contract management system, and that contract management system is due to go live in the next couple of weeks. That will start to give us, because that will actually link spend to contracts, so that will start giving us far better visibility over time. But at the current point in time, we don't have that data.
Got a subsequent one on that.
Yeah, sure.
So have you, not knowing that, but you could have sort of figured it out because you got the single gold contractor, eradication contractor. Have you put your lens over what you've written here to what that particular contractor would have to put in place in his business to meet these standards?
I have. All of the contractors that we deal with, for example, are required to have site-wise or some type of health and safety certification. They're all required to have public liability insurance and other insurances. So they're standard at the current point in time.
Mm-hmm.
The thresholds in here recognise that under $10,000, there are going to be transactions where you're dealing with some of those smaller operators. It's not even a contract in many times, it's just a purchase order.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to my earlier point about it being fit for purpose, the objective with this is that we don't put a single operator through 25 hoops to try and get to a point where they can actually work with the council. So we've got, at the current point in time, we don't have any preferred supplier panels. My objective is to get those preferred supplier panels in place, which is where you go out, you assess a whole lot of contractors, they sit on a panel, and then you can literally pull down off that panel without them having to go through a whole lot of other work. And then you can also have preferred supplier lists, which give you the lists of suppliers in the market that you can, when you go out to the market, you can ensure that they're actually engaged. So it's kind of trying to balance that we need to have the right people with the right skills to do the right job. And that always has to be the first point. Because if we go get somebody to eradicate goats who's never, hasn't got a gun licence, for example, that's going to end badly.
Okay. Thank you. Further questions? Councillor McIntosh.
Can you tell me a bit about how prioritisation works? By that I mean, in some cases, a contract might have a very heavy weighting to the price. In others, it might be very heavily weighted to the ability to do the job and so on.
So it depends on the individual circumstances. Weightings are an interesting model because if you weight too low, it makes no difference. And so, for example, I've seen sustainability weighted at 5%. The reality is that a weighting of 5% will have insufficient weight to actually change the outcome, unless everything is absolutely equal. So for something to have a bearing, it usually needs to be at 25 to 30% minimum. And so you can do a lowest price conforming, for example, which basically is exactly as it sounds. The lowest price will get the job. The risk with lowest price conforming is that if the market is tough, people will underquote. You'll either end up with not getting delivered what you want to get delivered, or you'll end up with variations.
Yeah.
So as a general rule, if you think 50% quality, 50% price, and then you weight it depending on what you need. It's not a science, it's more an art. And if you look at a procurement that's gone to market and they go 5% for sustainability, 5% for a particular business group, 5%, what you'll actually end up with is pretty much a whole lot of 5% of nothing.
So you can see a situation where nevertheless you need some weighting to assist you to arrive at a decision. But you can see a situation at the end of it where you go through that weighting criteria, and the one who comes out one on the rating criteria is not necessarily the one that gets the job. I'm not criticising that.
Yes, no, absolutely, you can get that outcome. Normally, the one who has got the highest score should be the one that's selected. But if you, for example, do a two-envelope process where you say that quality and the ability to deliver and the technical competency is more important than price, and you put price as a second envelope, then you can actually end up with a perverse outcome. So I'll give you an example. The guy that gets 80% on quality and another organisation gets 60% on quality, and you go, oh, well, that's not good. And then you open the price envelopes, and the guy at 80% is $1 million, and the guy at 60% is 400,000, and you go, oh, that must be the better deal because we've only got 400K. So you can get some perverse outcomes. It's just trying to balance those.
Thank you. Councillor Roadley.
Thank you, Chair. Lovely to see you again, Graham. Thank you for your work on this. I'm very pleased for it to come to our table, given the quantum of work and procurement that we are currently eyeball deep in. My questions actually are around if you could help bring some clarity between the procurement strategy and the procurement policy. I like many things in the procurement policy, but I was surprised to see in the strategy that our why is solely on the delivering value for public funds, and there's no mention there of broader outcomes. And I note that you said we don't have an obligation to adhere strictly to the government tone of being very more focused on funds, that as a regional council we have the ability to shift our weightings, which is what we have been doing, for those broader outcomes. And so I wonder why that wasn't reflected in our why.
My understanding is it is in the second paragraph on the right-hand side, the offshoot. So the innovation, sustainability, ethical practices, and aligning with our vision of a healthy environment. So my intention, and apologies if I've missed it there, but my intention was that was actually covered in there. The why, the the single bullet points were just to make it look nice.
Okay, my preference would be that under the why, that we would highlight the fact that we are not just about cost savings.
Okay.
Your point and example exactly before around the 400 to a million K, we're not just about cost efficiency, we absolutely are, but we are balancing other extremely important broader outcomes for our community. There was just one piece of the wording in the, actually I think it's in the paper. Oh no, I've got so many things open. Yes, here it is. So in paragraph 17, you've noted that the regional council is has responsibility for the economic viability of the region. And I wondered if that was quite the right wording you were after there.
I thought that was a cut and paste, but I'm open to having got that wrong and maybe taking some literary license.
Yeah, I think that also appears in policy 9. So it's both in the paper and in the policy, and it probably doesn't truly reflect our responsibility. We are a part of that, but the sole responsibility is not regional councils to the economic viability of the region. So if we can soften that and actually reflect the reality.
Sure.
Thank you. Councillor Curtin?
Yeah, thanks. Graham, I just wonder whether any work has been done at all to understand whether the thrust of procurement to solve social, environmental, economic problems actually works through procurement policy. It seems to me we may in fact be hindering it by making all these impositions on contractors and suppliers, putting them through lots of hoops. Is in fact, has there been any work done to validate including those sorts of objectives in a procurement policy?
Interesting question in that was brought in by the previous government, those requirements, and the current government in Cabinet Minute 24321, the current government has removed those requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So I know some procurers who work in the sustainability area, and they would say absolutely they've made some differences in particular circumstances. There's no reports or statistical analysis that I'm aware of that's been done. I think that we've got the Progressive Supply Guide. It's a big document. It's a document with, if I put every question that was in that guide into an RFP out to the market, I think probably nobody would respond.
We'll have to do the work ourselves.
Yeah.
So there's a balance there. At one stage I thought about, do we propose removing that supply guide from the website? I don't think we should. I think there's some really good elements in there. I think we just need to be selective about how we actually apply them.
Okay. Councillor Harding and then Mike.
Kia ora, Chair. Looking through you, Graham. Thank you very much. This has a feel of expertise in the room and a good, solid set of policies and procedures. I just wanted to ask about supply panels. You mentioned the inclination to go towards those. How do we manage the risk of supply capture? How do we manage the risk of price? Are there structural things that we can do to make sure we're always doing well?
So a supplier panel, if set up correctly, you would go out into the market and you'd, let's say for engineers, you'd go out to the market, you'd say, we're looking for engineers. We'd do a full assessment that would be based on price, it would be based on quality, it would be based on technical expertise. And then you create that panel, and then you do a secondary procurement process when you select off that panel. So the secondary procurement process might be, we've got this piece of work, can you give us your price for doing it? So price is not driven by the fact they're on the panel. Price can be driven by the secondary procurement process that follows underneath it. The risk with panels is that put 10 parties on a panel and 3 parties constantly get all the work. That's the part that I think is actually the biggest risk. The price can be managed through that secondary procurement process. But getting the right people on the panel and making sure they all get a fair opportunity to actually do the work is, I think, is the bigger challenge.
Thank you, but isn't another risk of panels that, let's say you have 2 providers on a panel, that it becomes a cosy arrangement, and we've seen that with Wellington Water recently. So back to my question, are there structural things we can do with this approach to ensure that we are getting best price all the time?
So you shouldn't have 2 on a panel, would be my first point. You should have 5 to 10 on a panel, would be the first thing. So you're actually spreading that out. You can, secondly, you could make the panel an open panel. So you can have a refresh on it every year, every 2 years, whatever. So at that stage, you go out to the market and new panel members can join that panel. So that helps keep pressure on it. You can fixed term the panel. So put it in for 3 years, 2 years, whatever's appropriate, and then go at the end of it. That's it. We either renew, you can fix price the panel. So you could go out there and say, if you're coming onto this panel, you're going to be at this, you're going to quote your rates, and those rates are going to be fixed for X period, maybe with a CPI adjustment. So absolutely there are things we could do around it.
Okay, thank you. Those all sound like things we could have in a policy on panels. Thank you.
Perfect. Mike?
Thank you, Graham. So just by coincidence, this has been a matter of interest for our Māori Standing Committee over the last several months in trying to understand what was the policy, what was the standard, and how was it monitored. So I hope that the council do adopt the strategy plus the policy. It will then allow us something to actually be able to monitor and hold to account in regards to how are we meeting the policy in regards to our interaction with mana whenua. What does partnership actually mean? I just look at top line and young tourists. So I understood that social outcome that he tries to achieve, and measuring that up against that commercial outcome as well. So it is a tight balancing act to make those type of things happen. But I would really encourage Hawke's Bay Regional Council, wherever possible, that there are some social outcomes that can be applied from time to time that allow others to break into the industry. Kia ora.
Thank you, Mike. Councillor Hokianga, then Councillor Radley.
Hey, kia ora, thanks, Chair. I guess this is probably not a question as such, but some follow-up comments from Matua Mike, just regarding the considerations of tangata whenua, and how it can be, I guess, monitored, if you like, by our Māori partnerships or the Māori committee regarding some of the suppliers and whether or not any of tangata whenua suppliers might appear in that preferred suppliers list. And it would be good that we can kind of encourage that space for some of the tangata whenua suppliers that may be in there, as mentioned by Mike. And I guess the following sort of points from 19 and all the way through, where it somewhat acknowledges from time to time that there will be some the need to engage with iwi. I guess the engagement of local iwi is staying appropriate and necessary, and it'd be good to understand that a little bit more. What it's actually meant by that.
Mm-hmm. Just on that, do you have terms or an explanation of some of these groups that you mean and how you'll engage with them, or is that still to be developed?
That would still to be developed.
Okay, can we just note that? Yeah, that's something we're really interested in hearing your feedback on. Thank you. Councillor Roadley and Councillor Van Beek.
Just before you
Oh, sorry,
go on that
to
I
add on
would,
to that.
I appreciate that, so that's still to be developed, that engagement. But by having a policy and having the strategy there, this is something for us to, from a starting point.
Yeah,
So
to anchor
really
onto.
important.
Yeah, it's a follow-up. Councillor Roadley.
Thank you, Chair, for a second go. I just wanted some clarity around how the panel concept as described, how that dovetails into the registration of interest process that we've gone through with the NIWI projects. How do those two things interact? And there is a risk that once we have selected our, where we've gone through with Pool A, Pool B situation, that with this considerable time lag on these large projects, that our narrowing that pool down to our 4 preferred suppliers quite some time ago, when it actually comes to the point where we're doing the procurement, actually that pool has become narrower again because some of those contractors are no longer wanting to participate in that activity. Are we kind of are those two things in conflict?
No, they're not, because with any panel there needs to be a secondary procurement process. So that's the first thing. Whether the panel is open is another issue to be considered. So if it's a closed panel and your panel's gone from 4 to 2, then absolutely you do end up with that perverse outcome where...
And do we have a mechanism to undo that? If that
we do.
Perverse
we absolutely do. So ultimately the panel belongs to HBRC. It's HBRC's panel. So if we choose to close that panel down, then that's our choice to do that. The recent one, the engineering one that literally got closed down, one of the reasons that we didn't extend it was because I received feedback from some of the suppliers that they'd received no work, and other suppliers had received more work. So on that basis, it made sense when it came up to its natural point of either refresh or close, it made sense to close it. But we will go back out to the market and create another panel, but make sure that it's actually fit for purpose. So you're right, there is a risk there.
Thank you. I'd like to move, please.
We just have one more question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Van Beek. Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing some new faces. Now you're going to extend the panels and looking at some new contractors onboarding. That would be really great, because at times it's actually really, it's always the same. So it's really good. Regarding the progressive procurement supplier guide, and I can see why you're thinking about shall we not put it on the website, because it could be quite daunting. And I call it almost RSC, and that's not the labour scheme that we have here, by the way. But the RSC scheme, labour scheme at the time, was actually labelled by those who were going to use it as recognised social engineering. And there's a little bit of social engineering in here as well. And I can see that the single gold colour would really struggle with some of that work that he would have to do on his own. So I once again, thank you for taking that on board and not always applying it to the exact letter.
As I say, I think it should stay. It's got some really good material in it, but I think we just need to be selective about making sure it's fit for purpose and what we use and what we don't use out of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roadley.
Yes, could I move, please, 1 through to 3.3? Do we need to, however, note that there will be some changes to the wording?
Based on the discussion today? Yep.
Can we do then? And
Perfect.
then, yes, I'd like to move that, please.
Thank you. Can I please have a seconder? Councillor Harding. There's probably not much else to say. Are you happy with that, Councillor
I think
Roadley?
we've traversed it.
Councillor Harding? No? Okay, all those who agree say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. Kia ora, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks so much.
We move on to item 8, the delegation changes under the RMA Amendment Act. Welcome up, Katrina. Yes, kia ora, and Sophia. Kia ora, Sophia.
There's no cost benefit analysis going on.
you, please. Please just provide the briefing and outline, and then we'll move into questions. Perfect. Thank you.
I'll take the paper as read.
Yes. What are we doing?
Sorry, Chair, I'll take the paper as read.
Yes.
But
Councillors, yep, we've started. There you go, Katrina.
Changes under, is it item
Yeah.
8? Sorry, I
8.
just got a bit lost. Apologies.
Highlighted ones.
We're good, we're ready.
Thank you, Chair. I will take the paper as read. The changes have come about as a consequence of the RM reform package. And in particular, this piece of legislation is labelled, and it is a long title, Resource Management Consenting and Other System Changes Amendment Act 2025. There are 5 parts to that, or 5 themes in that legislation: the infrastructure energy package, the housing package, the farming and primary sector package, the natural hazards and emergency package, and the system improvements package. What you have before you is changes to delegations under those packages, largely relating to consenting. There is some policy implications too. You will recall when we brought at the beginning of the triennium to you the delegations on RM. They cannot be sub-delegated, so you cannot sub-delegate or you cannot delegate RM functions to the CE and have him delegate those to staff. They need to be delegated to the appropriate level by you. And so that's why we bring you these changes to the delegations every time there is an RM amendment. You could probably expect that there will be some more coming your way shortly. Yes, that's really about it. Unless you want me to go into detail, in which I'll call on Sophia to go through the technical detail of what it is that we are delegating. High level is consent processes in terms of being able to decline consents for insufficient information, being able to charge for that, increasing the cost of compliance costs. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Katrina. Does this at all change the process for where we're heading with Plan Change 7?
Remind me what Plan Change 7 is.
Outstanding water bodies?
Sorry, I looked a bit blank there, didn't I? No, it does not.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Harding.
Your Chair, and through you, I have a question about, and I realise this is delegations, but it relates to the delegations around freshwater farm planning and what we are planning to do as a region around that. So we've seen, and I'm just, that very long-worded RMA Amendment Act that we have notes that there is a new, the threshold for requirement of a freshwater farm plan, a certified freshwater farm plan, has been raised. And the threshold is now 50, and I'll read them, 50 or more hectares if the farm is pastoral, arable or mixed land use, or viticultural orcharding, 5 or more hectares for horticultural land use, other than viticultural orcharding, and or if a farmer holds a dairy supply number. Those are the key things. So essentially there's a raised threshold based on land area for non-dairy. And so that is now quite out of line with our regional requirements, which are currently only in the tuki, if I have that right. And if also have that right, our requirements for updating those plans were suspended, awaiting the new direction from the government. So my question is, what is our new direction now that we have new thresholds, please?
Thank you for your question, Chair. Councillor. You're quite right. There are some changes to freshwater farm plan requirements, well spotted, but there are more coming. Part of the larger RM reform package. And we are waiting with bated breath for those changes. Not only do we have requirements in our tuki plan for farm plans, they are of course connected to production land use consents that are held in that catchment, and they are due for renewal in 2027. So rather than go out with changes to our landowners now, with those immediate changes, we are hoping that between now and December, we are going to get a full suite of changes to farm plan requirements that we will then communicate to landowners who hold those farm plans. We are not requiring any review at this point in time of those plans, so we will continue to extend that pause. The addition to the changes coming really are about, one, we know the changes proposed here in terms of who needs to have one, but also whether they need to be submitted to the council, what they need to include, do they need to be audited, and what the compliance arrangements are around those, we don't know yet. So we would rather wait until December or thereabouts and communicate that as a package to those plan holders.
Just a quick supplementary question then. Would it be necessary, let's assume that there was the intention to align with the national policy under Tukituki, would that require a plan change, and is it reasonable to expect that the council at that time may initiate a plan change to change it if that was required?
The plan will need to change, but of course that involves rules around freshwater as well in our plan, which is something we cannot do because we've got also a planned stop in place by the minister. So it all becomes a little bit complex, and it's better to do it as a package. And it might be that what we need to do is take those provisions out of Tukituki completely. That will also then implicate the production land use consent requirements, and we would need to do a more substantive plan change. So we really need to have the package in front of us before we know the direction we need to take.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Great questions. Councillor Roadley.
I just follow on from that. Katrina, I know this is deeply in Sophia's kitty. However, there will be huge community interest in this, and I wonder if I could put in a plea that before we go out to our community, that councillors can have some, at the very least, some awareness of how that's going to roll, how it's going to land on the ground, and potentially there could be some insights that we may be able to provide to help that team be effective.
Without a doubt. Councillor, the consent and regulatory implementation team, in fact, who is led by Louise, sitting over the back of the room there, has engaged deeply and extensively with the Tukituki community over the years, and we've always taken councillors along with us on that journey. We'll continue to do so.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, Councillor Harding, would you like to move?
I would like to move the paper.
Thank you. Can I please have a second? Councillor Van Beek, thank you very much. No need for it.
Just a very quick,
Short.
Seeing as I raised the question about where we're going with freshwater farm plans, I just want to put it on the record that nothing in that detracts or deflects from my view that they're an asset to our region, to our farming, and ultimately to the way that we administer our fresh water. It's a matter of right sizing, but the starting point is it's the right tool to be using, working with landowners to get improvements. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Van Beek? No. I totally agree. It's all about the pace and the size of the change and working together to make it effective. Kia ora. Thank you. All those who agree with recommendations 1, 2 and 3, say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. We move to item 9, the Reimagining Flood Resilience and Funding for 25-26. So this is our third go at it, team. So nothing new, but if we could please have just a brief of the paper and we'll go into question time. Thank you, Nick.
I might start off, Chair, and just hand over to Louise. As you'll be aware, members have considered this paper before. Ultimately, what officers are requesting here in looking to use the existing reserve is to make sure we can fulfil the arrangement with the community as we look at the reimagining of the Upper Tuki and Haratonga schemes, and particularly the Haratonga scheme, which is big and complex, is that we can test some of the ideas that are coming forward from the community as part of that process in advance of the long-term plan. As the team will tell you, those will get sieved and funneled into the ones that are the most appropriate to get tested. But I think this is really about that opportunity to make sure that the community has had its say and their ideas have been thought through and tested in an engineering sense as part of that process. And I'll just stand through to Louise for any additional.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Through you, Chair, I don't really have much else to add to what Nick has already outlined. I believe this paper has been in one variation or another in front of you 3 times. We've added some more detailed of the finances since the last time you saw it. The Reimagining Flood Resilience project is a significant project for this council, and we are making good progress with both our technical advisory groups, our steering groups, and the establishment of the stakeholder reference groups, and we will be giving an update to that later this afternoon. Having technical support through those stakeholder reference group meetings would be a huge bonus for this project. I'm not sure that we could fulfil the Hawke's Bay Independent Flood Review if we're not able to support those community stakeholder groups with some technical input.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you, team, and we really appreciate the financial robust reporting that you've provided in this report, which I note that the council would like to see as part of progress updates going forward, particularly with this amount that is asked for. It's crucially important that that information is provided to those community groups to make the best informed decisions and have the best options in front of them. So we do agree and support, but how we keep track of it, we'd like to keep an eye on. Yeah, perfect. Are there any further questions? Comments? Councillor Van Beek.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you're going to keep it within that portfolio, that tag of money, because there will be many requests, I would say. So how are you going to sieve through that? All those requests that are coming, because you'll have technical advisory group that possibly will have some certain questions and demands, and so because they need to have technical data to make decisions on, but similar to the community groups as well.
Yeah.
How are you going to?
So we already have had an initial conversation with the TAG around possible things that they have already identified, and that is a substantial amount of money that has just come from that. And obviously the community stakeholder groups will have an equal number of ideas. The way that we've dealt with it so far is to get some input from consultants around, what makes sense, what is worthwhile doing, what isn't. And then I propose that we take it through the steering groups who oversee those 2 projects to ask them, this is our proposal. Does it make sense? Do you agree we're spending that amount of money? Okay. That would be the sensible approach.
So you will elevate it up to the steering groups. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Foley, and then Councillor Hatter.
Thanks, Chair, and appreciate the answers offline. I just wanted to test the statement, no additional impact on ratepayers, and you've given some information around reallocating money that's already in the budget, but obviously not needed. So, and then also a loan which will was a loan in the budget and was going to be paid back anyway. But I guess if this money wasn't getting spent on this, then wouldn't there be like it would be a surplus at the end and maybe reallocated to less rates the following year, or the reserves that are getting spent obviously might already have a reason for another spend. So yeah, can I just test that statement, please, based on that?
Through you, Chair, Councillor, you're absolutely correct. The loan that we're talking about here was the tail end of the loan that was funded as part of the 2021 LTP for the rate smoothing. We're utilising some of that, which has repayments for it and the interest costs going forward in the budget. If we were not to utilise that amount, so it's 150,000 that would be utilised for this, which is the general rate component of that, you're right that we could then do our next budget alignment to remove the need to have repay that 150, and that would save around about $10,000 a year of general rate requirement going forward for the next 20 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Curtin and then Councillor Rodley.
I was just going to offer a further item to the recommendations.
Okay. I'll go Councillor Rodley and then come back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Para 15 there, where the statement is around using the revenue and finance policy to create the 30-70 split. I just wanted a chance for you, probably Louise, to talk us through this piece of work. Yes, it is around flood protection, but it's actually virtually solely around community engagement and comms and engagement. And there is that piece that you've just spoken about, the 150,000 being utilised from the general rate, whilst the targeted rate sits in the with a balance of 1.8 million. I just wanted to check in with you, your thoughts around why would we not just use, given that it's not actually, it is more about comms and engagement rather than bricks and mortar building whatever we're going to build, and that the reserve is already in 1.8 million plus, why would we not just use that money from the target rates?
Yeah, I actually can't answer that question, so I'm going to pass to Chris.
Okay, thank you. Chris.
The key reason that we're using the 70-30 is part of the revenue and financing policy that we all went through in detail in this trimester. We don't break down what happens around the schemes, these large schemes, into the types of activities that deliver that overall scheme. So when we talked in the revenue and financing policy, we talked about the costs that are associated with the overall scheme, which includes the actual running of the scheme, but also engaging and creating changes and everything like that. And so the work that is being identified here fits within that LTP level of service or that activity, and therefore that's the appropriate revenue and financing policy that applies to that funding. If we were to say actually that needs to move to 100% targeted rate on those schemes, we would need to go through a review and potentially a consultation around changing a portion of the types of costs that are associated with that scheme to going straight to targeted rates rather than split as per the
Which
policy.
sounds like a prudent move, because that process, as you've described, sounds like it's more than a $10,000 process. So this is actually a more efficient way of moving forward with the project. Is that? Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Thank you. Great question. Councillor Curtin.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm just going to suggest that we add a further recommendation to recommendations in the paper to the effect that the Regional Council requires regular comprehensive reporting for each project in the in the Reimagining Resilience Program, including the technical assessments made.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Van Beek.
You need to have a look at my name to be able to.
No. I was trying to get around the camera,
Oh,
so I'm not
okay.
rude.
Been here 6 years, you know. Almost.
Councillor Curtin, there's no need to speak to this any further?
Pretty straightforward,
Yeah, pretty
Madam Chair.
straightforward.
We've been around the mill on the
Yes.
detail, and
Yes.
I'm actually satisfied that we're going in the right direction and it's needed. But I make the point generally that we do need to sharpen up our transparency and accountability for those funds, and thus adding the addition to the recommendations.
Great, thank you. And are there any further speakers? There are none. Those who agree say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. Thank you. Thanks, team. Well done.
Told you.
The timing team, okay. Item 10 is the delegation of the Pakawhai Niwi project procurement. Kia ora, Andrew. Goodness, I want to say Matt. James. Andrew and James.
Kia ora koutou,
Kia ora.
councillors. You're going to see us popping up and down quite frequently today. So
Did you bring your sleeping
Back in the
bag?
box.
this is round one, and I hope a relatively straight one. It's another reflection of one where we are in the election cycle and the criticality of maintaining momentum with the projects going to market. That's the first point I'd make. The second one is that the Pakawhai project from a procurement perspective is simpler, certainly than where we've gone with Whitehall, with an early contractor involvement approach that we've adopted there. This one will be a traditional procurement based on weighted attributes for the scoring. Just one heads up for you though, and I will be proposing a slight tweak to recommendation 3.2 as a consequence of this. Is that one of the key things in procurement is that we're constantly scanning the market and seeing what the state of the contractor market is like. And at the moment, there is a little bit of sign of more activity in the market, which is great for contractors, perhaps not quite so good for council, but good for the economy and contractors. So off the back of that is that this contract, as you would have seen, will be over the threshold of our $20 million, which means that it would have headed towards the A-list for contractors that have been identified through the ROI process that was completed in the middle of last year. What we're going to do is just reflect as to whether or not that is going to be most advantageous to council, and it may be that we split the contract for Pakawhai, and it splits quite neatly in some respects because the expressway demarcates one side as opposed to the other, and that may be a point where we say this side will be one contract and that side will be another. And even the nature of the works between the expressway and Links Road could lean it towards a separate contract because there will be hard flood walls there instead of stop banks, which is a different form of construction. So we are still looking at that, and as a consequence of that, what we'd like to propose, Chair, is that there is a change to recommendation 3.2, that it then reads, undertake a traditional procurement tender process to select a preferred tenderer, and in brackets, S tenderers, to construct the project work. So that just gives us the flexibility. Yes, we may well go with just the one, but it gives us the flexibility, subject to Nick's approval, that we have more than one.
Okay, understood. Yes, questions for the team? Very straightforward. Very straightforward. So can I please have a mover and a seconder for 1, 2 and 3, noting the changes to 3.2? Councillor Van Beek. And a seconder? Councillor Broadley. Happy to do so. Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, thanks once again for all the work you've done. I know you've really sweated this one, and it's been in read for a while. You think it will come out of read at some stage, as in where you're not sure whether you're going to land within the bookends of the funding. But so far, I've got confidence in the team that you'll get there.
Thank you. Councillor Broadley?
No, we've traversed this.
We've traversed. We'll traverse.
We look forward to actually a full update.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, all those who agree say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. Thank you. Perfect. No, that's fine. We'll move on to item 11, end of training wrap-up and interim delegations to you, Nick, the CE. I'll hand it over to you.
Through you, Chair, I will go around to see if Desi or Leanne are here, but they can deal with any questions. Essentially, there is a period, the interregnum period, I think between the 16th of October and the 29th of October, when the new council hasn't yet been sworn in. So this paper just identifies how that period is managed and delegations. Ultimately, I'm not going to look to take any decisions in that period that would be in the least bit controversial or significant. It's really just a holding place to get us through that period, and is a standard practice for all councils in the country to go through this process. I'll just check if Leanne has anything she wishes to add.
Okay, thank you. Just in terms of our committees, what is the process for, I guess, standing down committees? And is that the same period?
Sorry, no. The process is that at the end of the triennium, which our last meeting of the regional council will be on the 8th.
Yep.
All committees are just disestablished, and then any, except for the Civil Defence Emergency Management Joint Committee, and then after the new council is sworn in the second week of November, there will be a new, the council will meet and establish its new governance structure, which will include the committees and what their terms of reference are and their membership and everything like that.
Okay. Councillor Curtin.
Yeah, Madam Chair, can we just have some clarity as to the date? You mentioned, the Secretary's mentioned the 8th of October. It was my understanding that the committees remain in place until the new council is sworn, the day they're sworn in. Can you confirm the date at which committees are extinguished?
The date that the current councillors go out of office is the day of the notice of the final results of the election. So we're thinking that it'd be the 16th or the 17th of October, and that is the date when the committees would be disestablished.
Sure,
because
so
there
not
wouldn't
the
be
8th of October. You mentioned the 8th
No,
of
I was just saying that that's the last meeting we have scheduled.
Sure.
Okay, so the 16th of October is when all committees
Everything is-
disestablished.
and the
Everything.
council.
Yes. Okay, thank you for that clarity. And they re-stand back up at obviously the first meeting.
The first ordinary meeting of
for the council, and then they stood back up for committees on our second council meeting where we decide terms of reference.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good to note. Councillor Sears.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So the delegations will stand from the 16th till the 14th or 16th of November, whenever those committees stand back up.
To the 29th,
Oh, till the
when the
first
new
swearing in.
council
When the
is
new council
sworn
is
in.
sworn in.
Just for those 2 weeks.
A particular thing is that councillors cannot act until they're sworn in.
Correct.
So once you're sworn in, the new council is able to act.
Okay, thank you. Do you know further questions? Can I please have a mover for recommendations 1 and 2? Councillor Harding, Councillor Wolf-Foley, would you like to speak?
Just very briefly,
Okay.
it's one of those scary resolutions where you could drive a truck through it. It's so broad. But I have immense confidence in our Chief Executive to use his powers wisely and sparingly.
Sparingly. Councillor Foley? No. Now further speakers? All those who agree say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against carried. Thank you, team. We move on to item 12, which is a fixing of the common seal. So we have 2 items here, or 3, sorry, asking for the fixing of the common seal. The first 2 seem very usual, but plan change 7 is one that councillors may have questions on. So if we can invite anyone up to help with those questions.
I'll just ask Katrina to come to the
Thank
table.
you. Kia ora, Katrina.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
But otherwise, take the paper as read and happy to take those questions.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any questions? Councillor Harding, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Looking through you, question for Katrina. Look, I know we have already received a paper on this, and it was essentially a rubber stamp at the time, and I think I'm probably on record as having some concerns about the practical implications of implementation of Plan Change 7. So it has crossed my mind as to what the practical implications would be of refusing to apply the common seal on this one. So that is a question I'd like answering, and I'm just also, for all of the valuable things that Plan Change 7 attempts to operate, indications are already through feedback from commercial water users that the practical implications of that and constructing a new test of effect of activities on outstandingness of regional water bodies is proving problematical. So I'm interested in, one, a response to that, and two, an understanding of what happens if we chose not to apply the common seal. Thank you.
Thank you. Trainer.
Through you, Chair, that is an interesting question, which I'm not sure I can answer. That would be highly unusual. This is a decision by the court. I understand that this is simply procedural. It doesn't remove our obligations to, in accordance with the Act, apply that plan change as directed by the court. I can get some legal advice on that, but I can't answer your question. It would be highly unusual, is my answer at this point in time. Secondly, and I think goes and fundamentally goes to the separation of powers of our constitution and the government, actually, but that seems pretty heavy. But when you're directed by the court to do something, it would be unusual for a local government to say, no, thank you. In terms of how we intend to implement that, it absolutely will need to be implemented through consents. And so the consents team already has been meeting or has agreed and had conversations with tamatea pōkai whenua as an initial conversation. We know what the values are that are in that plan change and how we can work together with tamatea pōkai whenua to make it easier for consent applicants to address those matters in consent applications, rather than thousands of consent holders having to do that individually. We have talked to tamatea pōkai whenua about how the council might be able to enable with them jointly to address that as globally. And certainly we will need to have those same conversations with mana ahuriri. So we are going lightly at this point in time and working our way through that. There's no pressing emergency right this minute, but we are having those conversations.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Or partial clarification.
Partial clarification. Are there any further questions? There are none. Okay, I'm happy to move, given that we've confirmed that fixing the common seal has no weighting of change with Plan Change 7's decision and actions.
That's correct. We can't make any changes. This is procedural. Okay. We have been given the plan change by the court.
Thank you. Can I please have a seconder for this item? Councillor McIntosh. If there are no further speakers, all those who agree say aye. Aye. Those against?
Abstaining, thank you.
And an abstention from Councillor Harding. Thank you. Carried. Thank you, team. It is a bit early, but our next item is actually moving into public excluded. So what we might do is take lunch 5 minutes early.
Do we want to move into
Yeah,
public
yeah,
excluded first and
Yep.
then go to lunch?
Perfect. So if there are no questions, you'd like to move, thank you. Now have a second to move into public excluded. All those who agree say aye.
Aye.
Why
Those
are we
against?
moving into public exclusion, Madam Chair?
Oh,
Secret
yes. Very good question.
Have lunch.
Leanne?
You
Would
can't have
you?
secret lunch, public
Yeah.
excluded.
Just to remind us why we're moving into public excluded, Leanne?
Yes, for the Niwi project, it's because the project is subject to ongoing negotiations and tender processes that could be prejudiced by the release of sensitive pricing information. And for the strategic projects briefing, the matters being discussed are subject to internal and external legal advice and therefore legally privileged.
Well done. So all those who agree with that say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. Thank
So
you,
there's
team.
nothing to do with lunch.
We're back at 1:30.